Welcome, everybody. Monday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show kicks off now. Cinco de Mayo edition. I don't speak Spanish very well, sorry. Cinco de Mayo. And Clay, we could all take a moment to commemorate the victory over the Second French Empire at the Battle of Puebla in 1862. I remember it like it was yesterday. So this really has just become a holiday that Americans have appropriated so that we can have an excuse to drink a lot of cerveza and margaritas, because Mexicans don't care about this holiday very much. This has become an American thing. We love Cinco de Mayo for the excuse that it gives us to eat delicious food, maybe wear some festive attire.
Sombreros. I want as many people to culturally appropriate today as possible. I want you to post comfortably on your social media accounts if you have a sombrero hat, if you potentially have a Mexican mustache that you would like to pose with as well. We would like to honor all of our good friends in Mexico with the best thing that America does, which is take the best things from the world and make them better.
Do you agree with my somewhat controversial tweet that just came to me this morning that burritos somewhat overrated, but taquitos, which is a deep fried taco, underrated?
So it does not surprise me that you would even have elite and high-end Mexican food taste, which the burrito, I know because the advertisements run all the time with Eva Longoria's podcast advertisement. I understand where the burrito came from. I actually am a quesadilla fan. I think the quesadilla is the peak Mexican dish. Now, I know some of you are going to argue fajitas, a lot of work, and it's always, like sizzling, and then you have to move things around and complicated. I like the quesadilla, everything rolled together, and I'll even specify, used to be a chicken quesadilla guy, now all in on shrimp quesadillas, which probably is a little bit healthier.
I'm just going to say, I would usually like to make fun of your taste by saying, of course, you like the Mexican version of the grilled cheese. However, when it comes to fajitas, I've had bad fajitas. I have. Sometimes the steak is too chewy. Sometimes the chicken is way too dry. I've never had a bad quesadilla, I will just say.
It's hard to describe. Quesadillas are up there with like cheeseburgers, chicken fingers, pizza. If you screw it up, and I mean, this is why kids, like a lot of times kids go with the cheese quesadilla because they don't want anything else on it. And it basically is even closer to a grilled cheese then. It's just really hard to screw up a quesadilla if you got to make a choice.
Now, just saying for everybody, Cinco de Mayo, enjoy however you celebrate. And we could get into some of the discussion about cultural appropriation later. First of all, it's an idiotic term. Second of all, I think that as a notion is rapidly fading away. And I have to say, I wonder if we're even going to see the controversy this fall over children wearing like a Pocahontas Halloween costume. Is this stuff finally going to go back to normalcy where people don't overreact and become hypersensitive? Anyway, discussions for later in the show or perhaps another day. Let's give you what we got on the news here, because I know that's the first and foremost reason why you come and hang with us. That and Clay's culinary takes. We got a sit down with Trump where he covered a lot of ground on Meet the Press, talks about the border, talks about the Trump third term. We're going to dive into that. Trump also with some scorching truths, which I always think of as tweets, but truth social postings over the weekend. One on judges, and he's almost verbatim, Clay, copying what we've said so many times in the show, which is, if Democrats can kick the border wide open and we can't deport anybody in any meaningful numbers, including people that have been here for a year, 2 years, 3 years, if we can't do that, the country is essentially over because the Democrats are just going to flood the country to the point where there's no longer sovereignty and the rule of law has just become a joke. We'll get into that. A lot of attention, and we will spend some time on Trump's truth about reopening Alcatraz as a prison. It's already open. Clay, you've been, right?
Oh, so I was just there like a month ago, remember? Because that's when I watched the great film The Rock with my junior in high school. We were out in San Francisco. We toured Alcatraz. We'll get into The Rock in a little bit. But yes,
our friend Dave Rutherford, who is a former Navy SEAL, has sent us a talk back about this little controversy in that movie because the SEALs just get wiped out by the Marines. I'm sure the Marines all laugh about this one, and they're like, haha, look at the SEALs. But the SEALs did not have a good showing in The Rock, which is the most absurd movie any of us, I think, have ever. I loved it, though. I'm not hating
So
on The Rock.
entertaining. I'm not going in with the historical accuracy or the analysis of the gun battles, which I'm sure the SEALs are not happy about. I think the idea of a group of Navy SEALs deciding to take over chemical weapons. Sorry if you spoiler alert here. Deciding to steal chemical weapons and take over an island.
Well, it's the Marines who steal it. The SEALs try to take the island back. So the SEALs are the good guys in this movie.
Sorry, the Marines.
Yes,
that's right.
Clay.
Sorry, my bad. The SEALs get wiped out. By the Marines.
Real fast.
Spoiler
it's not
alert.
good.
Because
we're used to this. Usually when the SEALs appear in the movie, it's like the cavalry arrives. You're not used to the SEALs getting all wiped out without taking out a single bad guy. So that's the one part of The Rock. It's like, ooh, man. So anyway, Dave Rutt is a former SEAL. He'll weigh in. We'll have some fun on that. I do. By the way, this is not a grumpy buck moment. I do think The Rock is a great watch. It is just absolutely preposterous top to bottom. And is kind of a stealth James Bond movie, too, because of the Sean Connery thing. But we shall discuss that. We got a lot more to dive into, and we have your talkbacks and emails from over the weekend. But let's get into the Trump situation here. Let's get into what happened in this interview with Chris. First of all, we have to keep reminding everybody, because if nothing else happened, Clay, in the first year of a Trump presidency, then completely securing the border to the point where everyone has to agree it's secured, you would think, wow, that's a really big win for the administration. The only issue that I have with this, or rather the only problem I can foresee, is that he secured the border so quickly that it's now turned into, okay, what's next? Which, yes, that's a high-class problem, you could say, but it's amazing what they've been able to do. And even Kristen Welker has to admit this is cut one about border crossings. Play this.
Border crossings are at their lowest level ever recorded. Is the border
Is that good?
Is the border now secure?
Yeah, it's really secure.
It's absolutely
Isn't that good?
secure.
When you say that, doesn't that just sound good? After being abused for years by an incompetent president that allowed people to pour through an open border, criminals from all over the world, murderers and insane people from mental institutions and insane asylums. Isn't it a beautiful thing when you say it's the most secure it's ever been in the history of our country? Isn't that a nice statement?
It is a nice statement, Clay.
And I actually think that we have to keep hammering that home, because I think it's indicative that you have to trust Trump on economic and tax policy and other immigration policy choices, because everything that he said he would do at the border, he did it, and he did it in the first month. And Democrats said basically this was impossible. And it is an incredible accomplishment to have the most secure border that we've ever had in the history of our nation. And so I don't think we can overlook that, as there are other battles that are intensely underway right now. And I think, I mean, I know we talked about the stock market for several weeks back in April. You know, the stock market is now higher than it was at the beginning of April. That's the S&P 500, the Dow, and the NASDAQ. And if you were just calm and you either bought more or you just put your 401k off to the side and didn't look at it, you're doing very well. Unfortunately, I know that a lot of people bought high and sold low because you let your emotions get the better of you. But we'll see how it goes today, Buck. I think it would be 10 straight days, which is a record for the last 20 years of stock market going up. And we're basically back to where we were on election day. So if you didn't feel incredibly poor on election day, and I hope a lot of you did not, then the stock market goes up and down. But 6 months later, we're basically at the exact same place as we were then. And I think that's significant, and why I hope that you stood strong and didn't bail and turn into what did panicking? What did Trump call it? Don't be a panicking. Yes.
Don't be a panicking. Yes. He's good with the words, Trump. Bigly talented when it comes to words. We have a new tariff that got discussed, though, in this interview. This is getting a lot of attention. I think it was covered the Wall Street Journal online today, or at least on the front page, if you will, about the movie industry in this country. And Clay, Trump has appointed as special ambassadors to Hollywood Mel Gibson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Jon Voight. And there is a big problem with Hollywood right now. People who Rob Lowe did a podcast. I'm a Rob Lowe fan. Rob Lowe did a podcast. Guy's had quite a career, long time. And they were talking about how expensive it is to try to make any movie in Hollywood right now. And it's insane. But it's actually a really good microcosm. People might say, oh, this is what's actually a huge business. But I might say this is just one industry. And okay. But what's going on when you can't make movies in America anymore? We're the place that makes all the movies, but we have to make them in other countries. I think that this is important because it shows what we're dealing with here with stupid policy, with unnecessary regulation and costs. So Trump says there are going to be tariffs now on movies that are not made here. Play 2.
The movie tariffs, what they've done is other nations have been stealing the movie-making capabilities from the United States. And I said to a couple of people, what do you think? I've done some very strong research over the last week. And we're making very few movies now. Hollywood is being destroyed. Now, you have an incompetent, grossly incompetent governor that allowed that to happen. So I'm not just blaming other nations, but other nations, a lot of them, have stolen our movie industry. And I'm saying, if they're not willing to make a movie inside the United States, and we should have a tariff on movies that come in. And not only that, governments are actually giving big money. I mean, they're supporting them financially. So that's sort of a
all right. So Clay, here,
let's
the audio's not great there, but you hear what Trump's saying, more or less saying, look, it's too expensive. On that Rob Lowe podcast that I mentioned, he said that I think it was for a lot of productions, even if there was an open lot in Hollywood, an actual movie lot that no one is using, it is cheaper to fly the entire cast to Budapest and make the movie in Hungary. This is American production companies.
Yeah, I mean, this is a reality. And Hollywood, and I actually think Trump, some of you probably are going to think this too, may be too kind right here in what he's doing because LA is not exactly Trump country and Hollywood isn't either. But I think it's emblematic of staying committed to principle over the politics here. Hollywood and America in general is being hollowed out. Now, partly that's because of the cost, to your point, Buck, that Gavin Newsom has put to bear on production there. I know I worked on a Hollywood studio, a LA studio on the Fox lot. I've spent months and months, if not years of my life doing shows that are originating from LA, sometimes here locally in Nashville, but other times on the lot itself. And there has been a tremendous decline. I think the number in the New York Times, I was reading about it, is something like 30% of all Hollywood productions have vanished in the last couple of years, and they're now going elsewhere. And there's a lot of people struggling that used to work. And I'll point this out. The people, Buck, and you might have heard of Adam Carolla telling us this. I found it to be true. The guys and gals who build the sets and walk around with the cameras and do the physically laborious jobs of making movies and television, actually a lot of them vote Republican because they would come up to me and they'd be like, dude, I agree with everything you're saying. They'd say it quietly. A lot of times the people in front of the cameras don't, but the people behind the scenes, these people are really hardworking, physical laborers oftentimes, and many of them are Trump people.
You know, my wife yesterday was tending to our baby, little Speed, and we're flipping through because she's got a lot of baby chores to take care of. I try to help out, so I'm there with her, and we're in kind of that mode where we're all taking a beat with the baby. We're trying to find something on TV. We're flipping through, and we get to the Schwarzenegger classic Commando, which she had never seen, and we proceeded to dive in. Have you ever seen Commando?
Oh, of course.
Up there with The Rock in terms of great movie, absolutely preposterous and makes no sense in any, but doesn't matter. Still a great movie, but it's the whole thing. You can tell it's shot in either the Hollywood Hills or probably in the valley somewhere. I mean, it's shot right in the vicinity of LA. You can just see the topography and the cars all have LA license plates on and everything else. And it's just funny because that used to be the standard. So many of the movies we grew up with were all filmed in and around Southern California because that's where Hollywood was, right? So you hired a camera crew, you went to a place and what we've seen now is they're all making movies in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Why are you going to make movies in Vancouver? So I don't think what Trump is doing is crazy, but beyond that, I think people recognize that bad policy and bad decision making by people like Gavin Newsom have really made it hard for one of the great American industries, which is true of the movie industry. It is one of the great We are totally dominant in movies, and we should continue to be. All right, we'll come back into all this here in just a moment. You know, ransomware activity is on the rise. These online hackers have been targeting companies, school districts, hospitals, you name it. Get a LifeLock membership and protect yourself. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for risks to your online identity. And if you do become a victim, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Scammers are getting increasingly sophisticated, and sometimes you don't even know you're being hacked. LifeLock detects and alerts you to potential identity threats you may not spot on your own, like loans taken out in your name, unwarranted charges on your credit card, and more. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives, and it's easy to help protect yourself with LifeLock. Join now and save 40% off your first year with my name, Buck, as your promo code. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go online to LifeLock.com and use promo code BUCK for 40% off. Terms apply.